Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Collectible Conversations. We're your hosts, Squeaks and Radar, and today we've got an action-packed episode for you. We've got a bunch of news coverage. We've got the last blip or blep that won the fan vote, and in addition, then we have our main topic today, which is going to cover the delays that we're experiencing in the grading world of trading cards, mainly for us Pokemon, but for a lot of people it's sports cards, Yu-Gi-Oh, and everything else. But before we jump into all that, Radar, how you doing?
Uh, I'm feeling a little bit under the weather today, but other than that, pretty good. I mean, I made some huge sales, like I think I mentioned. I'm still riding off the high of that, and I'm looking forward to what's left to
Are
come. And
you are you ready to discuss those huge sales yet?
yeah, I could. I sold my Master Scroll for $15,000 back at
Which is
9.
awesome. And you didn't tell us that one, by the way, last time.
I didn't.
You only told us the Kangaskhan.
Right, and the Kangaskhan I actually sold uh, for $73,000.
Cha-ching! This is where if we were professionals and had a nice soundboard, we would like hit the like sell, sell, sell or something like that.
That's right.
But we don't.
There it is. It's
So
it's
imagine it.
being paid off, but $73,000 for the Beckett 9 Trophy Kangaskhan. Pretty historic sale. Highest sale for a 9 in any case.
What was the
So
previous highest? Do you know?
for a 9, it sold on Heritage for 38,000. I think that was with
So
the buyer's
almost
premium.
double.
So almost double, which is
Wow.
about the same as the 10. The 10 went from 80 to 150. So
Yep.
very similar
So
growth patterns, and
mm,
I think a solid price. And even though I just mentioned it today, it's probably going to be worth double that. Actually, I'm not going to say that. It might be worth more moving
it
forward.
may be worth more in the future, but we don't know.
I don't
You
know.
never know. You worked with the info you had now. You got a fantastic price for it. And I'm sure you'll miss it a little bit, but I'm sure you'll put that money to great use, for the business, for the podcast, for everything. And yeah, that's exciting, man. Congratulations. A King scroll, a sales scroll.
Going to Vegas,
That's
baby.
all right. Well, everyone, that is not what we recommend anyone do after you make good sales. But so you made some pretty big sales. Anything else happening in your week? I know you said you're feeling ill. Hopefully, you'll be feeling better. Thank you for sticking it out with us, toughing through.
Yeah, I might be coughing a little bit here and there, but we'll get through it. News-wise, what else we got? I noticed that the Grand Prix illustration Charizard, the 143 S&P, is still being given out at the Pokemon centers in Japan. You get
Correct.
4 per 20 packs or something like that, and you can order as many as you want until the packs are sold out,
Mhm.
which I think by the time
Yeah.
that this video comes out, they'll probably be sold out based on what I've seen.
Yes, and they've seemed to kind of have went and waved up
Mhm.
till this point. We've seen, at the start they were like up to like $30, they were gone. And everyone's like, is that it? We don't know. And then they brought them back again. And
Mhm.
they fell back to like 20, some even 18, 15 if you're getting them straight out of Japan. And then they were sold out again. And then we watched them creep right back up. Now we're seeing them back in stock again. And they're kind of going through this wave. We don't really know how long Pokemon's gonna keep printing these. If they're maybe forever, it seems like. We don't know. Um, but what we have noticed is when they did go out of stock, they did seem rather resilient, which is, I think, a pretty interesting thing to note. It'll be interesting to see if the market can continue to absorb the amount that's getting churned out. But I'm still bullish on it, even as they make more. I like
Yeah,
it
I
as a
mean,
card.
it's currently being absorbed by people who are bullish. So the
Mhm.
interesting thing to see is how will it be absorbed when once it's on the open market graded. I
Mhm.
know some CGC ones have come back. I don't know about other grading companies, but that's we'll talk about that more, of course. Um,
Yes, absolutely.
what other news do we have?
So we actually have here, I'm going to pull it up for you guys. We actually have here a few pieces of news. This all comes from Poke Beach. We did get the alternate art versions shown to us. I'm going to butcher this name and I apologize, but I believe it's Urshifu and it's the VMAX. You can see here they have two different ones that are coming out. And so Clubblepuss did get his first ultra rare, as you can see right here. It's pretty exciting. In addition, we had a Zubat, a Golbat, and a Crobat that were announced for Single Strike Master in Japan. Now, all three of these cards can the Zubat's just the basic, but then the Golbat and the Crobat can draw you cards once you evolve it. So those could potentially see play. They are evolutions. That may be a detractor, but we'll see. In addition, we got images of the Spring 2021 Collector's Chest Tin revealed. They've done many of these before with Pikachu, and I can't even remember all of them. I think there was one that had Meloetta back in the day, but we've seen these plenty of times. And so this one is going to come out, and these have not been revealed in Japan yet or anything like that. So they're probably an English exclusive. I think most of the ones in the past have been, but they come with 5 packs, 2 coins, 4 sticker sheets, a mini portfolio to store cards, a notepad, and a PTCGO code card. They're released on March 19th for $24.99 USD. I don't find that product that exciting personally, but I do find the next one exciting. So the next one that we have up is Venusaur and Blastoise VMAX Battle Box. So this is coming out in March, and these are essentially kind of like the collection boxes that we always get. You know, we have the V collection boxes. I think Shining Fates has like a Pikachu V. We had the double boxes in the Hatterene for Champions Path. So they're similar to that, except that they contain V Maxes, a jumbo card, and uniquely to these products, they actually come with sleeves, which we normally don't see. You can see the sleeves over here, whether you're a fan of the sleeve design or not, completely up to you, but they do come with sleeves. And then it looks like if the pack art, or if the box art is correct, that it's 2 packs of Battle Styles, 1 pack of Sword and Shield, and 1 pack of Darkness Ablaze, as well as then the Jumbo and the Promo. And those will retail at $24.99. So it's pretty much similar to the double boxes in the sense that you get the Jumbo, the card, the 4 packs. Those are $20, so you're pretty much paying the extra $4.99 for the pack of sleeves that they're including. I think they're a great product. I think people love Venusaur. I think they love Blastoise. These were released in respective decks over in Japan, so they're just doing a different structure for us. But I believe we're also getting these in starter decks. We were either getting Vs or V Maxes. I think these are the V Maxes, and the decks are going to be the Vs. So that's kind of how they're transitioning those products from Japan to over here, where collection boxes tend to sell better and work better in the retail space that, you know, big box stores allocate for it. In addition, like I said, we have a lot of news today. There are Urshifu V boxes coming out, and these contain a promo, a jumbo, 4 packs, and then also a special energy. So these are $19.99 each. So these are pretty much constructed exactly like what you would have seen with the double or Hatterene boxes, except that special energy card. It seems kind of like a throw in to me. Maybe they just want the aesthetic of the box to have like the 2 cards to where they look kind of, you know, better. I'm not a huge fan of including an energy card on the front of the box. And I'll go into that here in a minute once we finish the news. Because it's kind of a tangent. So let's just finish the news and then I'll tell you guys why I'm not a huge fan of that. In addition, just a tiny thing for competitive play, it does look like in Battle Styles, EXP share is getting reprinted. This historically has been quite a played card. I think the last time we saw EXP share played was in US Nationals. It was included in a Speed Darkrai variant. So that card could make an impact on the meta. Maybe something to keep an eye on. Maybe some of the older prints as well. Dragon Vault Hollow is probably the most lucrative one of those. And then we got our first teaser info for set 6, Silver Lance and Jet Black Spirit. As you guys probably know, Japan splits them into 2 sets, whereas then we'll get them combined most likely into 1. And mainly, we just got dummy pack art, which this usually is never the final art of the packs. And then there's just some sleeves and deck boxes that correspond along with that. Nothing else super, you know, told to us really, except that each set has 70 cards and will feature a secret rare card, which is similar to what we're seeing with our set coming out, how we have effectively the 2 secret rare cards, but they're in 1 set for us because they're combined. So that teaser info did come out. I'm sure more info will roll out over the coming weeks as, you know, we get past Battle Styles in Japan and go towards this set. They'll start, you know, more things will start leaking out. Now, going back to this box, I want to touch on the special energy thing. And the main reason, and you can let me know, Radar, if you agree, don't agree, but we've seen this year an uptick in people claiming resealed boxes, resealed packs, everything's getting resealed, people opening stuff and then returning it to Walmart, and Walmart just putting the return back out on the shelf and people buying it, and everything was, you know, changed out and switched out. So then, and we're seeing complaints, people selling packs on eBay that are completely legitimate sellers that have been around for years, getting negative feedback saying you sent me resealed packs, whatever. My fear is this, and maybe I'm off base here, but most collection boxes, you wouldn't imagine a special energy being at the front of it. Like when I saw that box the first time, I thought it looked like the oddest thing. And I could see someone going to the store and seeing that product for the first time with, the history of other collection boxes that they looked at and seeing that and thinking somebody swapped out an ultra rare a for a special energy, especially because there is a VMAX of those Pokemon, right? So you would think V and VMAX would come in the same box. And so somebody thinks maybe they swapped it out or something like that. And maybe I'm like overthinking this, but I always try to be on my defensive, on my guard with stuff like this because I remember in 2016 when Evolutions came out, how they did the thinner text, and everyone's opening these and thinking, "Man, these look fake." Like the cards are real, but they look fake compared to other cards. So if you put them in bulk lots or anything like that, and someone buys them, they're gonna think you just put fake cards in your lot. And so, big store vendors were scared to put Evolutions in their bulk lots to sell during the holiday season because they were afraid of getting negative feedback. So again, maybe I'm overthinking it. What do you think? What do you think I'm overreacting? I'm kind of nervous.
I mean, are these special energies going to be hard to pull? What's the deal with them? Are they secret rares?
I think they're just doing them strictly because they kind of tie to the Urshifu. Like each one is different. There's two different ones, two different Urshifus for each
So
battle style.
these energies only
And so I
work
think
for those Pokemon?
I mean, I
See,
guess I
that's
could
the thing.
pull it
Like,
up. I don't.
I don't know how are these energies going to be used? I mean, we have
So
um,
one of them is for a single strike and one of them is for a rapid strike. So
right. So,
each
well, is
box
this
is
going to
one
be
box.
like a normal? Like, are you going to have 20 of these in your deck?
Well, no, no, no. So it's a special energy, so you can only have 4 of each.
Okay. So, I mean, if it's hard to pull and there's not that many out there, like, why not? I guess they're trying to just push that new aspect of the game that they're adding onto it. So, yeah, it looks
Mhm,
awful. They should have just kind of added it maybe like behind the VMAX or something so that you got both of them.
mhm,
I think that would have been much better, much more appealing for those people buying it. I think you're overthinking the aspect of the whole, is it resealed, is it not?
mhm.
Those people are just scammers and I don't want to deal with them. In my,
That's completely fair.
so yeah, it's fine. It's just lame. Like you said, it's kind of not that
Wish it would have
exciting.
been different, maybe structured differently because I think it's fine to include it. I think it's just odd to have it as like one of the focal points of the product
Yeah.
when it's an Urshifu box that, is like either single strike or rapid strike style, but now you're like making an energy card that will end up being just a bulk energy card,
Hmm.
not, a prominent fixture. And I
Well,
I just
yeah.
thought that was kind of an odd design decision.
Yeah, Pokemon's pushing this new tactic in their game, and is it
Yeah.
going to be good? Is it going to be bad? If it's bad, the whole thing's going to fail. All the products are going to be awful. So
Mhm.
they're doing
I'm actually
what?
pretty excited for it. I think it'll be good.
Yeah, I mean, so this is what any normal new business idea. They need to push it out as much as possible. So they're
Correct.
getting it out there, and that seems like
Mhm.
the way to do it. Um,
Yeah.
so whatever. Buy vintage.
Yeah, yep.
um, I got one more thing that I actually want to throw out to you guys. I know you're always coming to us asking us what to buy, what to sell, what to whatever. But I have $350 of eBay bucks. I want the comments to tell me what to buy, and I'll just buy it. So let us know in the comments below what I should spend $350 on, and maybe you'll see it in
Can
one of
I
the upcoming
can I
episodes.
vote?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you should go on over to Squeaks Game World where you can,
Okay.
Squeaks Game World's eBay store, you can spend all $350 of your eBay bucks there. So, guys, if you're gonna put comments down in the chat, make sure that it's things that I have in stock so that Radar will buy my product.
Well, that was a cheap plug, but yeah.
That's why I'm here, baby.
All right. Well, I think that's it for the news. So unless you,
Yeah, one final update is just heritage auctions have not really we've kind of
yeah.
kept you guys up to date so far. There hasn't really been any movement. We've got 9 days left. There hasn't really I've not seen anything creep up out of kind of the range of what I would expect. Protostoise, I think, is the one that's probably the most unique of all of this, and maybe the PSA 10 Charizard that we're, everyone's kind of watching and waiting to see what they do. Not a lot of activity to report on. Maybe in the next podcast as we're within kind of that, it'd be what, 5 days left, 4 days left.
Hmm.
But I think at this point people are kind of resigned to waiting till that maybe that day of to make their play. And maybe they're waiting for their stimmies. The stimmy checks are in. 600 bones coming in. Maybe you qualify, maybe you don't. Hopefully out there, maybe you are getting some stimmy money. But I wanted to say this week my sales and offers have uptick. And surprisingly, a lot of first base offers. So we had kind of seen first base rocket
Mm-hmm.
and then dive
Mm-hmm.
and then flatline, kind of where it was at. Now I'm starting to see things creep up. I actually had a guy buy a first ed Gyarados. I forget the grade, just outright. Didn't even offer me on it. Had a best offer button on it. Probably would have given 10% off, but they just bought it outright.
Mm.
Um, and so, but tons of like, especially the common, uncommon rares. I've seen a lot come through, but I've seen a lot of offers on the hollows too. I'm not really sure that's because of the stimulus money. I'm not sure any of this activity. I don't know if it's because it's New Year, if it's stimulus money. Do you have any thoughts on that? I'm not really.
I'll be honest, a lot of the people that I hear that are getting stimulus checks instantly go to what should I spend it on? And uh, I think if you're receiving a stimulus check, that should not be the first thing you hop into. You should be using that for your expenses that it
Sure.
is meant for.
Mhm.
um, sure, maybe you messed around with numbers and got a stimulus check when you don't actually need it, but yeah, put that away. Don't buy Pokemon cards with it. Use it to pay rent, buy some food, things you need. Don't buy Pokemon.
Okay, well, let's say it's someone that they got a stimulus check that they've been working this whole time. Their life hasn't really changed in their financial regard, so it's just a plus 600 bones.
Mhm.
And maybe they invest it, maybe they don't. Maybe they just want to have a little fun with it. If do you think that correlation then is happening?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it, people say that it had no effect in 2020. Some people say it had all the effect in 2020. It definitely had an effect. And yeah, it was a bigger check, but it definitely does. I mean,
Mm.
it's extra money, and people like to spend money when they have it. So, I
That's true.
100%. It's one of the factors. It's one of the factors. You can't
Mhm.
deny it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you have it. So maybe that's part of the reason that we are experiencing an uptick in the offers and sales. So it'll be interesting to see if those kind of wane off over the next, few weeks, as those checks roll in for people. Because some people are also, I believe, getting physical checks if they don't have a bank on file that they can deposit to. So well, it'll be interesting to kind of see how this plays out across the month of January and then into February, at which point I suspect, stimulus or not, people are going to be spending absurd amounts of money because Shining Fates comes out in February.
Yeah,
So,
that'll be fun. Um,
yes, it will. But
s-
let's jump in to our main topic today, but not before all of you out there go smash that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Let us know again in the comment section below what you think Radar should be spending his eBay bucks on, because you said you have how much in eBay bucks?
350.
350. So I only want suggestions that cost 360 or more.
Okay,
He's
fair.
thinking about it. He's not sure why I said that.
I'm
Because
not.
you got to put a little of your own money into it. Stake something into it.
Yeah, that's
No, I'm
true.
just kidding. 350 or less. That's the rule. Put it in the comment section. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to both our YouTubes. We're here to please. It helps us out. We help you out. Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Yeah, and I mean
What's our
to
topic?
be honest, we've got a lot of feedback and comments on our last video, mostly about the blip and the blep that we're going to discuss kind of into our whole topic here, um,
Yes.
which is the junk slab era that you brought up as your blep.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep.
so
So to recap, for anyone that maybe missed that episode or did not stay till the end, shame on you. You My blep was that I think with the current way the market is going, that we run a really dangerous risk of entering what I would consider to be called the junk slab era. And I'm kind of using that naming convention based off the junk wax era from baseball, which is essentially in the 80s and 90s. An absurd amount of baseball cards and product was printed. Everyone believed they were going to make buku dollars on all of this stuff. Eventually, that era collapsed in on itself. And even to this day, a lot of that product is not worth anything. And that's why they call it junk wax, because the cards are printed on wax paper. And so, junk wax era. My comment was that we could be in what we would consider the junk slab era, which would be cards that are slab that eventually become worth either just what the slab plus the card cost is, or maybe even less than that. So before we kind of unpack that whole blep, let's first talk about kind of what the grading scene looks like today. I would say my opinion is that there are three and a half ish, maybe four major companies right now. I think you've got PSA and BGS, that everyone knows. I think CGC has came and rocketed on the scene, and I think we absolutely have to mention SGC,
Hmm.
specifically because of the $360,000 Charizard sale that many people were, is it real? Is it not real? I don't know if it's a fake sale or if it's a legitimate sale. And now it has come to light that that sale was not only legitimate and paid for, but it went to a very prolific, well-known member of the community in SM Pratt.
Surprising. Um, Kind of want to dive into that one too, but let's not. The grading companies right now, the main factor that we're going to talk about today kind of is a reason that this junk slab era might come to fruition. And what we're experiencing is these kind of inevitable delays from PSA, from Beckett, and now we're seeing a little bit of pushback on CGC as they are extending their bulk rate or their bulk turnaround times from 30 days to 60 days. Uh, this is a huge factor, I think, the biggest, in my opinion, on the entire market.
Mhm.
Um, so, why do you think that this is kind of leading into that junk slab era?
So, to give people context about for this to make sense, I want to take you guys back to 2015 grading. 2015 grading in Pokemon looked like this. Send it to PSA if you even send a card to be graded. Most people didn't even grade. That's it. There was nothing else. There was no chasing the black label. There was no CGC versus PSA fanboys everywhere. There was none of that. It was you send it to PSA. You probably sent it bulk submission. It really didn't matter the value of the card or what you put in it. They weren't going to upcharge you. Upcharges existed, but they didn't really apply it to Pokemon at all. I mean, I had a bulk sub in 2015 that I had a whole first base set in. And they all went through. I think they were $7 a piece. like, and that Charizard came back a 9, and I sold it for $1,300. Like, it just the dollar value wasn't there. But you sent that bulk sub, January 12th, and you get it back February 12th. You get it back in less like a month, like not even 30 business days, just 30 days. Things came back, they were accessible. And so for people that wanted to grade a card, if the market moved, Gold Star started to move 2015, 2016. When somebody would grade a card and this market would move, if a trend started upticking and everyone's like, holy cow, we got to capitalize on this, we got to send our Gold Stars, you can send your Gold Stars and get them back and still capitalize on that movement. And so what it did was it caused the price relativity of items to accessibility to balance out very quickly. If a movement happened on one card super quick, but there were a ton of them out there to be graded, they all got graded and they got back very quickly, and that price found its like true value very fast. Let's fast forward now to today. You send it to PSA, the company that we've just been talking about. You're probably, at least on bulk, you're not seeing your card for probably 9 months ish. If you send it at a faster turnaround time for a higher dollar cost, even then, I would say it's probably still going to be, anywhere from 4 to 6 months. And if you do BGS, if you do their unguaranteed tier, I don't even know if they even still offer that, but at one time they had an unguaranteed tier that it was almost guaranteed you would not know what even happened to your card or if they even received your card for a year.
Still the same.
And then, you know, now I think some of their tiers, it's minimum 6 months,
Mhm.
that you're going to see it. CGC, it started out 30 business days. It was great. It kind of changed the modern landscape. Now it's 60 business days. Now, they've said if your order was already logged prior to that, it's going to be somewhere in the middle of that. But right now it's 60 business days. That's not the forever aim. They would obviously, their goal is to get it back to that 30 days, but it takes hiring. I think their volume is a lot more than what they expected. So it's an ever flowing process. But the point is, you can't just send a card off anymore and capitalize. You can't just you have to factor in that wait time. You have to factor in, we saw it earlier this year. Jigglypuffs, Pikachus, Charmanders, they mooned. And then everyone and their brother was sending them off. I cannot even imagine how many unlimited versions of all of those are sitting in PSA purgatory right now. And so many of those people are gonna get them back and flood the market with them because they just wanna capitalize on whatever is left of that market and bring it right back down. You have to factor those turnaround times into this chain. And so, back then, the prices would stabilize at kind of what the true value of that card was because the accessibility happened very quickly. But now we have almost this artificial scarcity that's being created. The cards themselves are actually, I wouldn't say plentiful because it all depends on the card, but for many of them, there are many copies out there
Mhm.
ready to be sold, just waiting for that slab. And so it's not a situation of it's a super scarce item that you never see or never find or never comes on the market. We've talked about Dragon Ball Z and Naruto trying to find sealed product and it just doesn't come on the market. It's not a situation like that. It's just a situation where there's a time gap of waiting for it to come back and everyone's doing the same motions at the same time. So people get this perception that it's a lot more difficult to obtain some of this stuff than what it is, just because it's not readily accessible at this moment. And so what it does is it causes these prices to go way higher.
Mhm.
But what CGC showed us when they first came on the market and brought some of that accessibility back is we started to see some of these prices come backwards. And that's when you started to hear well, CGC just doesn't fetch the same amount that PSA does. And in some regards, that's true. It takes time to build up your reputation, to build up your brand, to match up in that regard. But this modern stuff that's a dime a dozen, your average person can look at a card and know if it's probably a 10 worthy or 9 worthy on PSA's scale, etc. It's not like there's a lot of like scarcity or chase to it. It's just, you either have it in a slab or you don't yet. And so we started to see these CGC cards come back and start to, see some of these realized prices because they didn't have any competitors on the PSA end. And that's not to say that like, oh, PSA will be worth more once it comes back. It's just showing us the true value of these cards. And I don't even think PSA Rebel Clash submissions have come back yet. So we still don't really have a test because that's kind of when CGC first came. But I would venture to guess when some of these start to roll back, the prices are going to match up to what CGC was doing. Not because one is worth more than the other, but because a card is a card. It doesn't matter. Like the card is only as good as what it is, regardless of what label you slap on it, right?
Mhm.
You can give it a multi-prism rainbow, and the card is still only as good as whatever that card was. And so it's a situation where I think CGC's escalated turnaround times kind of remind me back in that 2015 of how quickly cards found their true value. And I think that's what we're seeing. Cards are finding their true value. Now you can always make exceptions. Well, let's talk WotC Vintage or let's talk trophy cards. There's always going to be the exception. But for things that are readily accessible and available in raw version, that the only difference is that they just haven't been placed in a slab yet, I think a lot of that stuff is inflated heavily. And I think it's because it's been on this perception that it's not accessible. Well, now it's becoming more accessible because there was a faster turnaround time presented.
Mhm.
Now CGC has extended. So what happens? What if they become 90 days, 120 days, you know, whatever? Then I think we get right back to that point. But I don't think that means those cards are actually worth that. And I think that's why we're teetering this like balance of accessibility and finding true prices for cards and artificial scarcity. So people are paying absurd prices for cards just to get them. But eventually, once the gates open and this stuff comes back, if everyone's under the belief for, okay, let's say we go day one, somebody expresses out a Shining Lugia and they sell it for 500 bucks. Everyone in the market says, Lugia's 500 bucks. So they go buy a bunch of them and then they send them all off to be graded. Now you've got 9 months before, those ones come back in the bulk subs. So you have people buying Lugias and flipping Lugias under the perception that they're $500 cards for 9 months and sending them off for 9 months. So what happens when your first wave comes back and people put them on the market and find out that now that they're accessible, the price drops. But now you've got 9 months of that play out activity happening. And you've got 9 months of everybody trying to capitalize on the same market activity. And it all pans out. Because once that 9 months hit, none of those sell, people will quit doing it. But you've still got 9 months of play activity there. And that, I think that is the problem. Because once that starts to play out, I think you end up with a lot of cards that end up in slabs that people never would have slabbed otherwise. And
Yeah.
obviously, it's card to card, right? Shining Lugia may not even be the best example. Maybe those Charmanders and Jigglypuffs and all that would have been. But I think you end up in this situation where a lot of stuff is going to end up in slabs that there wasn't true demand for it. There was only demand because it was artificially scarce and people couldn't differentiate whether it's actually a scarce item or whether it was a scarce item just because grading is inaccessible at the time.
Right. And
So I know I just gave you a
I
lot there.
think you're gonna get
Unpack it.
yeah, I think you're gonna get, a lot of hate, obviously. Anyone that talks about
I always
PSA
do.
and CGC being like just the way you talked about it, I think was expressed really well, and I feel a very similar way. I think the only argument here is that at this point in time, with the size of the market, there are a lot more big whales and strategic
Mhm.
investors out here that will be building large positions in these cards. And even based on the numbers today and what might come in once they open the gates, people are going to scoop them up at specific price points and continue to create that artificial scarcity.
Mhm.
Maybe other than like, I think the Shining Lugia is a great example because there's not going to be an exorbitant amount of those. I think there's going to be enough of those to have 5, 6, 7, 8 people build large positions in nines and tens and have a very large majority of that market. I mean, something like a base set Charmander that there's going to be 5, 6, 7,000 of probably. That's going to be
Mhm.
tougher to do, and those are going to have a tough time. But the more unique modern cards, Shining Lugia is a promo, right? That came out of one of the
Correct. It came out in
boxes.
the Shining Legends Premium
Um,
Collection.
that yeah, it there will be opportunities there that some bigger whales will build large positions in them, and it'll keep the price at a certain point. Um,
So let's go off Shining Lugia, so we don't detract from the argument. Let's
yeah,
pick a set Pikachu V
yeah,
from Vivid Voltage, the standard non-full art regular V. You generally get, I think it's one per like 1 and 1 point it's 1 per point 0.6 boxes. So
mm,
of every 3 boxes, you'll generally get 2. Standard V, I think they're like 2, $3 piece. I've seen tons of people sending them off to be graded.
yeah,
I think that is more kind of probably what I should have used as an example of what I'm aiming for of everyone's doing the exact same thing,
hmm,
the exact same cards at the exact same time with the belief of I can take this $3 card and put it in a $10 slab and sell it for $50 and triple my money and get it back. And it's all a race of who can do it first. And it worked because getting it back was just a game in itself. And so
yeah,
someone that wants this card, has been sitting there waiting for months for it to come on the market graded because they don't want to go through the hassle of this whole process to just buy it. But is the demand truly there for all of this stuff? Because the other thing that we should mention is grading is an all-time high. I
yeah,
mean, everyone is great. New middleman company every day, new person sending off 10,000 cards every day, new video talking about somebody sending off 10,000 cards every day. Like it's everywhere. And I think the market's an all-time high. But right now everything's being graded for the demand of kind of, you know, this volume.
right,
But if the market doesn't sustain this volume in terms of demand, if some people end up finding a different hobby, things open after COVID, things trail down, what happens when your volume cuts in half, but the amount that people send off is still the same number, right? Those cards don't just like leave in perpetuity. They stay up there, but now you've only got this much demand when it was this much. And I fear that it's your easily accessible, you know, the only real variable is the time of getting it back, I feel like those cards are the ones that are most susceptible to just absolutely falling through the floor because right now the demand can eat it up. But what happens at the point when it can't? And I think that stuff just ends up being junk. Like
Mhm.
I hate to call it that, but I think that there's just going to be a lot of this stuff and I'm guilty. I sent off 50 Pikachu Vs or something crazy like that. I think I'll be able to get them out before this happens. But
Yeah.
what happens when that situation occurs and people are just sitting on hundreds of these slabs of cards that, 2 years ago, we would have laughed at someone that graded a $3 ultra rare. We would have. It just was not something you did. We talk about how Leafeon and Glaceon level X are like 10 grand. And part of the argument is we have to debate, should that card even be 10 grand? Because for the longest time, people didn't grade level X's.
Mhm.
And those were $40, $50 cards. And now we're talking about people sending off hundreds of $3 cards. And it's like, where does it stop? Like, do we send 25-cent cards soon because we can just sell everything in a slab? And I think that's where I draw the line.
Mhm.
Once people start to get into the mentality, and I've even made this joke, in Discord throughout this year, you can grade anything. Doesn't matter what the card is, what grade it gets. It does not matter. You cannot lose money. And like I've literally done it with certain cards that people are like, why are you grading that Trico Gold Star in a 2.5? Why are you grading that, random Charizard Hollow from EX Power Keepers that got a 4? Because people will buy it and they'll buy it for more than what I would have sold it for raw. And like there has to be a line somewhere. And I'm not sure exactly where this line occurs, but I'm super, super fearful that these extended turnaround times either don't last forever and they get it together and that cuts out and that's what causes it, or they do last forever, which causes interest in grading as a whole to maybe wane and therefore the market wanes. But somewhere in there that this junk slab era happens and a lot of people just end up sitting on junk.
Yeah, it's going to happen. It's going I am 100% confident. Okay, 99% confident that that's going to be the downfall of collectibles. It's going to be exactly what you talked about, the junk wax era, the Beanie Baby era. That's going to be the reason. It's I can't think of anything else other than outside economic factors, but like it's unbelievable what people are sending off to get graded. I really appreciate that there's competition now within more competition now within the market with CGC entering. I'm curious to pay attention and see what happens to the prices if CGC hits the same turnaround times that PSA does, or if PSA finally gets their shit together and starts doing it the same amount that they do. Is CGC gonna continue to get somewhat decent prices? Um, it's there's so many different things that I'm looking at right now that it's just a little bit of a ticking time bomb. I mean, I know we keep talking bubble, 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 and I think that's where the bubble lies, in my opinion, is within these $3 graded cards. I mean, sealed product, modern, vintage, whatever, it's always going to be fun to open, so that's going to do fine. Uh, Rare cards, continue interest, continued uh, difficulty in grading. That'll, hopefully hold strong. But yeah, it's really scary to look at to see what's happening right now. And it's what
Well, I saw a post in a Facebook group the other day where someone said something along the lines of like, "I have $25 to $30 for a slab. I don't even care what it is. I just want to have one." Do you know how many cards I could buy and grade and sell, and my cost basis would be less than $30? I could do that all day.
yeah.
If there's a whole market of people out there, come hit me up right now. Squeaks Game World, we got them. We got tons of $30 slabs for you all day. You want a PS or a CGC 7 first ed Neo Genesis Chikorita? I've got it. $30, all yours.
So
Like, and that to me is absurd. That like people would say, I don't even care if this is a 25-cent card and your grading fees $10 or $12 or depending on your bulk volume, whatever it costs. I don't care. I'll pay you $30 for it. Why? And this to me screams that people are paying for cases and labels and whatever more than they are paying for the card inside of the slab,
Mhm.
which is essentially the only value that's there.
Now, what's interesting, a point that has been kind of muttered through our community is that PSA is increasing their prices to get stuff graded.
Mhm.
What happens when all three companies start to do that and it makes less and less sense to send these cards off to get graded so they stop getting graded? Or are the prices of the cards just going to inherently go up because of the cost?
So, I think it's a mix. I think that there is some threshold where you could raise prices enough to just weed people out, right? Like somebody's unless it's like a perfect score, nobody's gonna pay $100 for a Pikachu V that's $3.
Hmm.
So if your grading cost is 75, people just probably quit sending it. But kind of like when we talked about are we in a bubble or not? And we discussed how people tend to create narratives to justify the way they already feel about something, 25th anniversary, Pokemon Snap 2, Christmas, whatever. I think people want the grading turnaround times to lower. I think every single human being grading cards wants that to occur unless you just have a massive stockpile and you don't want any competition, right?
Hmm.
I think that's a probably a fair assessment. And I feel like this is one of those situations. I feel like people give themselves the idea they're raising their prices so that they can get more volume through. No, they're not. I'm sorry, they're not. Like, I understand that you're, like, trying to and I'm not saying you, but, like, people I understand you're trying to, like, rewrite the narrative to justify why their service keeps getting worse and their turnaround time's longer and they're charging you more money for it and you wanna, like, make yourself feel better at night, but the reality is they are not raising their prices so that they get less volume. They are raising their prices because people are sending their volume regardless and not speaking with their wallets, and they know they can make more money on it. Because here's the balance. If you're grading 1,000,000 cards and you're grading them at $15 a piece and you raise it to 25 and you still get those million cards, you now made 25 million versus 15 million. And if people knock it down in 2 million or they pull 200,000 cards out, now it's 800,000 cards and you're grading them at $25 a piece, you're still making more money than if you graded 1,000,000 cards at, $15 a piece. So you made more money with less work and the reality is, I don't even think they're gonna lose the volume. And
Hmm.
so no matter what, it's a win-win for them, and it's not a win-win for you because you're paying more money to get the exact same, if not worse, service. So that narrative, I just do not agree with. So
Hmm.
I don't even know if I could like honestly answer your question because I think the narrative is wrong. I think that narrative of they're cutting off the lower tiers so that they can get the volume through. I do not believe that. I just don't. I think they're cutting off the lower tiers because that is where their least margin is, and they can just make a lot more money charging people more because people just keep sending regardless. That's my thoughts.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Like, and I listen, I know we're putting in the comment section $350 buys for a radar, but I would love to hear somebody's counter argument. If you're sitting out there right now and you're like, that guy is full of shit. Like, that is not what's happening. PSA is the best. They would never do that to us. What's your counter argument? I truly want to know. I would love to have a dialogue. Maybe if your dialogue's good enough, we could even like pull you in here and chat about it. And I promise I'll be less aggressive. Like, but I am passionate about this one because this is something that we were back in like August and a friend and I were charting out like the bubble graph comparative to like our graph using Pokemon prices graph and we were trying to figure it out and we would have people come in and they'd be like this is such a waste of time and they'd be writing all these narratives even though it's, like, 2 different topics, when people start writing narratives about, like, why prices are rising and why services getting lowered and everything, it just feels like the exact same thing, where it's just a crappy situation, right? A bubble's a crappy situation, you never want the value of your items to go down, and you also don't want the value of your service and your cost to go like, your value of your service to go down and your cost to go up.
Hmm.
They're just both crappy situations, and it's human nature to try to make yourself feel better when you're in the middle of a crappy situation, and I think we are much better as consumers and much better as, people that are investing in this hobby, whether you're a collector or an investor or a flipper, to just call a spade and recognize that this situation is what it is And that if you have a problem with the way the situation is, then you have to speak with your wallet. And I know that's like such a cliche thing, speak with your wallet, but like that really is the only way. If people keep sending them cards and keep like giving them that volume, why would they do anything different? If I'm selling cards and people keep paying me more money than what I'm asking for them, why wouldn't I just keep raising my prices and making more money above that? Like it's a no-brainer. And so I like calling a spade a spade. I know it's not what people want to hear. I probably just got us like 50 downvotes. Sorry about that, Radar. But the reality is this is the situation. This is why CGC was so contested coming into the market because they are making what is a bad situation better. But the problem is so many people are locked into that bad situation because you can't get your send offs back once you're 4 months into your 9 month wait time. You're in jail, you're waiting it out. And so now they feel trapped, but now they also feel cheated because here's all these other people that are now just sending off and they're getting their stuff back in a month or two for equal, if not better service. And and now there's CGC people that feel frustrated because now turnaround times are going up and they've gotten used to this system and this process and they've advocated for the company and said, I think they're doing great and look at how fast they are and boom, now your turnaround times are higher. And part of that is growth, but
Mhm.
again, are we making excuses? Like, and I think this is like a really hard thing to balance. I don't know what the perfect turnaround time is for a bulk sub submission. I don't know what that is. I don't think there's ever going to be an exact thing, but it's a situation where we as consumers have to be realistic about what we're paying for, our expectations of what we're paying for,
Mhm.
and you know, how that service changes over time versus the amount of money we're putting into it. And I think prior to CGC's involvement, it I would say most people would agree that the service and speeds have gotten considerably worse while the cost has also gotten worse. And until they came on the scene, it was that situation
Mhm.
that then it started to get better because there was this alternative if you wanted to go faster. But now that's starting to take a little longer. And where do we go from here, right? This was kind of the bigger topic, turnaround times with the thing. Where do we go from here? What if CGC has to double their times? Now we're kind of right back in the same boat. Their service is still great, but it takes even longer. Now we're starting to see all these cards come back or not come back. Do prices start to rise? Should those cards be those prices? I don't know, man. There's so much going on.
Yeah,
Like
I
it's
mean,
so hard to
I
know what
I
a
hate and
situation.
love all three grading companies the same amount. They all have their own little things that I like
Mhm.
about them. They all have their little things that I
Yeah.
hate about them. I'm just happy that you know people see a lot of this coming out as negative conversations, but to me, it's all positive because it's
Yeah.
opening our eyes to see what the problems were with PSA. It's opening our eyes to see the problems with Beckett, and it's creating a conversation that needs to be fixed for us, or for us to realize, like you said, what we're getting out of all of this.
Yeah.
We have to sit down and realize that what these people are doing for us, which is an incredible service. None of us would be here without these third party companies. These graders are working their butts off to get this stuff done. They're not getting paid well. They're not you or me. They're not in love with these cards. They're just people looking for a job, right? So the amount of complaints that go in towards the people actually doing this work is just kind of offhanded, and people need to sit back and realize and take it in as a whole is you wouldn't be here at all without these guys, all these
Mhm.
companies, and they're doing what they can to make things work. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean it's a constant headache, a constant strain of where are my cards, when are they coming back, what's going to happen with the market when they do come back. Like I can't even buy collections anymore because it's it's just impossible to navigate and figure out what it's worth, and if it's a good
Yeah.
buy or not. So
Because
it's changing the
in
whole
9 months,
market.
the market can move 5 times either direction, and you're never
Exactly.
how do you account for that? And
Exactly.
and I like the point you make about specifying because a lot of this does sound negative. I When I tend to get aggressive, I tend to sound more like I'm negative. I like all 3 companies. Or 4 if you wanna, throw SGC. I know we haven't mentioned them much in there, but, I like the fact that there's more grading companies that exist, and it's like you said, they all have those certain unique features about them that make them what they are. But I think the coolest thing that has happened this year with CGC and SGC coming, more into the scene and things like that is it done exactly what you said. It's got us to ask these questions. It's made us hold these companies accountable. In the past, we didn't question it, even though a lot of times there were things we didn't like. We didn't question it because that's it. Those are your
Hmm.
alternatives. You either do it or you don't. But now there are options, and it's making us really sit down and weigh out what are the best things from each of these places. We've heard it all year. PSA has been around so long. They've graded more Pokemon cards than anyone. The prices are there. But then you sit and compare. Well, CGC grades the harshest, which I think is also inaccurate. I think it's accuracy, right? They're the most accurate. They've got great customer service. Their turnaround times are the best, lowest prices. And then we start to weigh out, well, how much do we really value this over here when all these things are better? And it's like getting people to actually like do this mental gymnastics, and it's making us all smarter. It's making us all better consumers. We're all going to do better and be better for it. And hopefully, these companies will become better for us asking these questions and holding them accountable. Because if they don't, they'll just fall off, right? The
Hmm.
others will pass them when they, take that accountability on. And so we ask these questions not to like, let's see how much drama we can stir up today. We ask these questions because we really want to improve this sector. And when we're out there telling you guys what we're doing, we want you to know that we've put the due diligence behind the scenes in thinking about these things to come up with the conclusion of what's best for us. If I had a play promo Espeon, I may not have, graded it where Radar did because maybe it didn't work for me or what I like in a company, but it did for him. And so a lot of this is us asking these things so that you guys can sit at home and say, huh, well, this is what's important to me. Maybe the turnaround time isn't important to you. It's going to be a card that goes in your collection forever. So you'd rather it be in a PSA case because that's what matches and they're time proven and that's that. You know, those kind of things. But you can learn what to ask yourself to figure out, is this right for you? Are these turnaround times a big deal? Is the resale value a big deal? Where the market's going to go on all this stuff, if you care about that or if you don't, etc. And so, please don't take this as negativity. Take it as opportunity. It's opportunity for us to all grow as collectors or investors or flippers or whatever, an opportunity for these companies to grow so that they can better serve us. Because at the end of the day, they are providing a service for a fee.
Hmm.
That's how I think of it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thought of the blep with this and why I think we could end up in that junk slab era,
Hmm.
like the junk wax era, versus, maybe maybe we don't. Maybe things change and it doesn't happen. But I think at least the trajectory that we are on right now, I definitely think we are in danger of that.
I agree.
Yes.
Ye- yes.
But that's pretty much what I have to say on that topic and, the grading companies as a whole. I think we have kind of already discussed maybe in the future having a more nuanced discussion around the intricacies of each company and the
Hmm.
pros and cons and all of that. But we didn't want to overload you guys with doing that full breakdown while we're trying to also discuss this topic.
Hmm.
So we'll probably do that episode for you in the future sometime, but that's pretty much what I've got on the old junk slab era.
Yeah. And again, it's all our opinions. We don't know what's going to happen, where the market's going to
Mm.
go. Um, there's the counter argument is simply there's a lot more people in the market. So who really knows? I don't have a chart that keeps track of that. I can't. It's just not possible. So
Left mine in the other room. So
so that's the things you got to look at. You got to sit down and if you really 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 want to figure this out, if you're a numbers person, you might be able to figure out. I don't know how, but if you do, let us know. And yeah, so we can predict the future. But
yeah,
yeah, I
that'd be
think
great.
I think that's all we have for this week's podcast.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I'm good on the old junk slab era. So, guys, thank you so much again for watching another episode of Collectible Conversations. A little shorter one today. Buddy over here is feeling a little under the weather. Wish him well in the comment section. Just add it. Just number him out. 1, 2, 3. All the things we've told you to put down there. Hopefully, he'll get feeling a little better here soon. And you've got one more thing. Do you want to? I don't know. Maybe you're not ready. Maybe I'm putting you on the spot, but you've got a pretty big thing coming up on your channel. Are you ready to talk about that yet, or
My
am
next
I?
my next podcast guest.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
Do you
think.
want to plug it? Just a quick little
No,
teaser,
well, actually,
for the loyal viewers that have watched 54 minutes into this.
yeah, I should probably get better at doing this, right? So tomorrow, actually, we'll
I'm
have
pumped.
old school Pokemon on Thursday at 9 a.m. Eastern time. He's got probably the greatest, one of the greatest error collections. Maybe it's just a specific card, but you'll find out once you listen to it. And then the following week, we have a pretty big time guest, one that I'm actually nervous to have on because he's a professional podcaster. So he's going to pick me apart, and I cannot wait to have him on. Pat Flynn just got into the Pokemon scene, and we will be discussing Pokemon podcasting and how these things can collaborate. So,
Yes.
looking
And
forward
he
to that.
has a YouTube channel, his Pat Flynn YouTube channel. He also has a new Pokemon one, Deep Pocket Monster. So before you watch that podcast, you want to go check it out. He's got an intro video and his first video. Those would be great to watch going into that podcast, kind of have a little idea about him. And then him and Radar are going to break it down for you. And hopefully you can find out how we can improve.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna be that's the one selfish motive here behind this one is gonna be figuring out how to make this podcast better.
Hey, look at the lighting. He left a comment. He said lighting's 80% of it. I feel like that was his nice way of saying get better lights. So here we are. We've got lights.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat Flynn.
But
But guys, that's all we've got. So you can look forward to that. I will have a few episodes coming up on my channel here talking about the Shining Fates allocations that have started to come out. ETBs will be I've already got that allocation. We'll hopefully have more. So I'll have that up later this week and a few other cool things coming to you. Maybe another CGC submission return video. And otherwise, that's all we've got. I'm Squeaks.
I'm Radar.
That's Radar.
Have a fantastic rest of your day.
All right. Look at my t-shirt. How cool is that?